Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the July meeting of the Hong Kong Study Circle and Hong Kong Philatelic Society, a Zoom meeting sponsored by FIAP, the Federation of Inter-Asian Philately. We organized a lot of show and tell meetings, but today, actually, I like to start something new, which is I'll call it Collecting Hong Kong and the Treaty Port series. Basically presented by, hopefully, in addition to me, other members of the Hong Kong Philatelic Society too. So we can actually make this a serial talks on the Hong Kong philately. So obviously, I mean, the first thing I think Ingo actually started with his general sort of Collecting Hong Kong webinar, which a few months ago that he gave. So I think maybe with his idea, so I actually have actually made this up, and I'll start right at the beginning with, and this is actually I call it collecting pre-stamped mail with a bracket for the novice, rather than the really seasoned collectors who would probably find this rather amateurish. Anyhow, so what is actually pre-stamped mail? Okay, so we see slide number 1. So pre-stamped mail, there's no name for it. It's a pre-adhesive mail. A letter is carried in the mail system before the issuance of postage stamps. Of course, everybody know. I mean, for Hong Kong collectors, know that the first set of Queen Victoria adhesives became available after the 8th of December 1862, and then this is the what you are seeing there is a government notification published in the Hong Kong Gazette on 6th of December 1862 with all the values of 2 cents. 2 cents, 8 cents, 12 cents, 18 cents, 24 cents, 48 cents, and 96 cents. Interestingly, all the values or denominations are actually corresponded to some postage at the time. So, for example, 2 cents obviously paid for the newspaper or the printed circular, and then 8 cents is like going to India or go straight settlements, and then the 12 cents, you used it on the sometimes late fee, 18 cents, etc., and the 24 cents. So they all actually have a purpose, unlike nowadays where the stamps were actually issued just for collectors. So they're not really for collectors. They actually have some use. Obviously, before the issuance of the postage stamps, there must not there were already system. There was already system how to prepay the postage. Right. So actually, some people actually use the term stampless mail. I mean, stampless mail is often used instead, but this is a little bit confusing at times, because this can also refer to mail sent after the introduction of postage stamps, either without prepayment, okay, of the postage stamps, or in cash. For example, like official mail, POW mail, or some even like the convention mail, the Anglo-French convention mail actually. Letters actually were sent without a stamp until just before UPU, so in the 1870s. For example, you look at, for example, 1962. This is a stampless letter. It obviously is official mail. So I personally would prefer to use a pre-stamp or pre-adhesive, the term, rather than stampless. Okay, so why collect pre-stamped mail? Well, I mean, this is of course relative. Okay, so relatively cheap compared to stamped covers. Now, why? Because there's no stamp on the cover, obviously. And sometimes if you have for stamped covers, sometimes if you have say maybe 4 or 5 color franking covers, would be more desirable and more. For example, if you have a 96-cent Olive Vista on the cover, it'll cost you a mortgage as your second mortgage, or something like that. So obviously, some stamp covers are very expensive, particularly the colorful with many colors. There are different combinations of stamps. So it's relatively cheaper, and then also much of material available to start a collection, because you know one pre-stamp cover looks very much the same as another one, and then of course a lot of pre-stamp mail were sent by commercial firms, so they actually sent a lot around, and then because they were held in archives, and so they were later maybe released or liberated into the market. So potentially you get a lot of these around, or maybe a family correspondence. You can get a lot of these around. It's also important, for if you were an exhibitor, for the pre-stamp period as the start of the postal systems, just to illustrate how the postal system began before they issued the stamps. So a lot of these exhibits, they would use some pre-stamp covers to show that before they had the stamps, how postage were paid and how letters were sent. But it's easier to keep because the paper actually in those days were made I think were made of rag or something. Yeah, it's very tough. The paper was very tough, and then quite. Some of them are fairly thick, some of them are very thin because of the cost of sending the letters. But in general, they don't they put a lot of chemicals into the paper. Like those, if you collect, say, like World War II, World War One or something, a lot of the cards get brown easily because of oxidation. Not exactly too familiar with paper making, but you can actually find, the 19th, 20th century, there was many letters which are very fresh looking. No need to worry about stamp missing, obviously, it's no stamp. And then the interesting thing is the social historical aspect. It is often available because actually people write on the paper, and then you can actually see, what's inside. So whereas in the stamped period, I mean, it's an envelope. So people actually either kept the envelope and then threw the letter away, or kept them a letter and then tear the stamp off. So but for the pre-stamp period, you have to keep the entire letter. For example, a company keep the entire letter for its files. And then the scope for further study, well, as far as I know, there's no published census of pre-stamped Hong Kong mail. I mean, nobody actually knows how many are there. But I can tell you that there are hundreds of them. So they're not really scarce at all. But maybe for some, they're very scarce. But, in general, if you talk about a common marking, there are hundreds of them. So, I mean, you're really spoiled for choice. I mean, to get even the one with the best condition. And then obviously some of the previous published literature actually contains some errors. Maybe the regarding the routes, or maybe the rate or something. There's some errors. So there's still lots of discoveries and interesting side to it. So the downside, of course, the downside is the condition could be relatively poor due to age and storage. Obviously, they were over 150, 200, sometimes 200 years old. I mean, obviously you could have some insect damage or rust spots, and a page could have been torn out of it. The major items obviously could be very expensive. I mean, if you're talking about, like a Hong Kong post office, the first, the hand stamp in 1842, I mean, it could cost you an arm or a leg. And then and then of course some rates and destinations could be very difficult. I mean, trying to find a pre-stamp letter to Luxembourg, or to even Russia, very hard, because I mean, okay, the rates are all there. If you look at the 1844 rate table, I mean, there are many countries, but I would say more than 2/3 of them you cannot find examples, or they were not yet anyway. There's all for example, to the German states. I mean, many of them actually, I think I haven't seen one for the last 30, 40 years. And okay, you talk about one to say, for example, the Caribbean. I mean, it's very, it's almost impossible. There's no examples, no. Okay, so that could be a little bit, if you are a perfectionist and you want to collect the world, the world destination, that could be, rather disappointing. So, and then of course the writing can be difficult to read, because a lot of the letters are whether the handwriting can be difficult if you're not used to reading it, and sometimes it's cross written and even triple written. I mean, the written, right, just to save the paper. So make it very hard to read, and the rate marks could be difficult if you are not used to the postage rates at the time. So also other things, the condition could be relatively poor because of there's a lot of filing folds with the letters, which is it could be horizontal, could be vertical across the letter, and then with age it turns brown, and then it is very difficult. You have to be very careful. It can be removed with with soft white rubber, but you've got to be very careful. Particularly if you're dealing with very thin paper, you could quite easily damage. And then, of course, with the corrosive ink, that's a big problem, especially with the letters to India. The paper's thin, the ink corrosive, and very often bits of it fall off, and you get lots of holes in the paper. And the faded manuscript, of course, is a big problem, because the red ink is photosensitive. So with time, it could either go brown and oxidized, or it could just gradually disappear. If you expose it to sunlight, definitely it will kill it, and maybe even UV that could cause problems. And then, of course, you might have repairs by previous collectors, hinges, etc., and then you can get splits because the letters were folded, and then you can get splits in the folds. So these are the downsides with the condition. Okay, types of pre-stamped mail. Okay, people didn't use a lot of envelopes at the time, so they actually wrote on the sheet of letter, on the sheet. Just write it on a sheet, fold it up, and then send it. So the letter is actually written on the paper, folded up, and sealed, usually with a wax or paper seal. And then you can see that the other side, one side of it will bear all the markings. Okay, so this is the very common way of sending letters. Just write letters, they fold it. This, of course, originated from the how they actually assess the postage before the uniform penny post. So of course there's another item is called a wrapper. Now wrapper is just a piece of paper with nothing on inside, and it is used as the name suggests, is a wrapper with one sheet or multiple sheets of paper enclosed inside. So it's a kind of like a pre-envelope. So, for example, this one, it's got the markings there, but inside is actually entirely blank. The original letter has already been removed. Note that you can see on this letter, there's what I mentioned about the corrosive ink. You can see all these little holes already developing on the writing. So, maybe in the next 50 years or something, the whole thing will just fall apart. Okay, of course, the envelope. Now, envelope were actually, I looked it up, and it was actually first, may correct me if I'm wrong, because I think it was in the late 1830s they start making envelopes by hand or later on by machine, but actually it did not gain popularity because it counted as one sheet of paper. So when it came to postage assessment. So, but after the postal reform, I mean, the letter was charged by weight, then that is a different matter. You can actually use a thinner paper, writing paper, so it's different. So the envelope was not that popular at that time. So this is actually quite an early, in 1844, quite an early envelope for something originating from Hong Kong. You well know it is from the Bruce correspondence. It's one of the letters from the Bruce correspondence that was discovered some 10, 15 years ago and auctioned in a sale in the UK. And so what to collect? Well, you can collect it. Well, usually most people collect the roots and rates. So, for example, some people collect the mail from Hong Kong and the three ports to destinations, X, whatever available destinations. And then obviously you can collect in the reverse order from the Hong Kong and three ports from the other destinations, which might be even harder. So obviously most people would collect to and from the destinations. And then, but some people actually specialized in collecting to certain regions. For example, the Trans-Pacific mail, or the mail by a particular route, like by Trieste or by Marseille or by Southampton. And then, of course, you can do it by you can collect by the rate study, different postage rates. You can do it, or maybe you only collect the postage rates to USA, which are extremely complex, and to Europe, to Atlantic, or whatever. And then, okay, there are also something for the ship letter routes and rates as well, which is very highly interesting. So and then there's other things other ways you can approach it is the shipping line. You can actually collect according to the shipping line. So, but before the really what we define as the pre-adhesive period, which is before the issuance of the stamps, and then really the options are a little bit limited. I mean, to the one, the P&O. Okay, the P&O actually started in 1845. So so actually that you can actually collect all the P&O, all the covers, the letters carried by P&O. There's one way to collect it. And of course, you can collect the French mail, which is very difficult because the French only started in 1862. So I mean, you only got about 1 year of it, and there's not many around. And then, of course, you can collect the transatlantic ships to USA, and that would be carried by would be mostly almost entirely P&O mail to UK, and then collect by and travel by various boats, different lines to the USA, like the Cunard and Inman line, Allen line, etc. There's lots of shipping lines for the transatlantic mail. And then for the Trans-Pacific ships, you can also, some people collect that as well, going from Hong Kong to USA by the Pacific. The early ones usually what we call the clipper, which is a very specially designed ship to sail very quickly, and I think the record was only about 95 days to travel from Canton to New York by they use the southern route, use the westerly winds during the winter, and then via the Cape Horn, and then sail up to New York, and then I think the record for 95 days or something like that. So, and then of course the shipping lines, you can also collect the private ships. There are lots of private ships like the East Indian Company ships, and also the man of war, which is a lot of people are very fond of. You know, the HMS Agincourt, and all carry mail. So this is something that you can play. Okay, ship letters. Okay, ship letters. Oh, it's a huge, great, very interesting area. Of course I don't know where you can see it. Yeah. Okay. So obviously the essential reference, or if you collect ship letters, you've got to have that. The Alan Robertson's books, the history of ship letters of British Isles, which actually has examples of all the different the ports, all the marks of the ports. And then of course there's a column that's actually wrote a book on the revision, correction, additions of Robertson's famous work. And then of course there are the other books. For example, if you collect the marks to the Europe as well. So for example, you get these letters were actually sent by private ships to the UK, and then of course upon arrival at a port around the British Isles or Scotland or Wales or Ireland, the ship's captain had to hand the letters by law to the post office for sending. So and then the post office would assess that the letter, the way, and then they put the ship letter hand stamp on. But interestingly, there are two systems. One is called the ship letter. The other is called India letter. So India letter it's actually from India, because India was at that time a part of the British Empire, and then there were lots of the British people living in India, and they obviously had a concession rate, a cheaper rate. So, but from China, they called it the Far East. Okay, so China or Singapore or wherever, the India letter rate did not apply. So, but sometimes when a whole bunch of letters came through to a port, for example, like this, like Eastbourne, something like that, this one on the right, Eastbourne, and then the clerk could have got it wrong and thought that, they were all from India and they put the wrong mark. So they gave them cheaper rate, and then of course, upon discovery of this, sometimes locally, sometimes in London, they would corrected it by stamping it with the correct ship letter and put a different rate. And then at times they had something called Pritchard cross, like this funny device called Pritchard cross, which is a kind of like obliterator. This was obviously from Canton, so Canton that does not actually qualify for India letter rate. So but at Penzance they got it wrong. So they put a Pritchard cross to annul the ship letter mark, and then put the correct ship letter mark on it, and assess it according to the ship letter rate. So lots of this around in the UK. It's actually absolutely fun to collect all the letters from China to the British ports. So and then but you need Robertson to find out. Some of them are exceedingly rare. Only maybe one, or even I think some of the ports there are no examples. No. So it's a challenge. Okay, so next. Okay, so yeah, packet letters. The packet letters, of course, you pay a higher rate for packet letters because it's a safer way of carrying letters. The letters were actually put inside a box. It could be a metallic box, a wooden box, but sealed up. So it was a safe and quick way of sending letters by the so-called packet means. Is like a box, right? So the P&O obviously ran mail service from Hong Kong and then to Great Britain at the time, and then and they obviously the rate they charge was much higher than the ship letter, and there was a standard rate. They usually it varies. Usually started off with a shilling per half ounce, and then it was later reduced to sixpence per half ounce, and then they used the port Southampton. I mean, okay, if you don't know where Southampton is, this is where it is here, so and then you get the example here. For example, this is a wrapper for a newsletter from the North China Herald from Shanghai, and it was brought down by a private ship, so it's got a ship letter Victoria Hong Kong mark on, and you've got the 1 penny rate for ship letter, and there was actually sent to London by whatever packet. It's probably impossible to find out because they usually, unless you have the newspaper with it, otherwise it's impossible to find out what date that would be. Maybe around like 1850s, I would say. So this is another one, where there was there was a reduction of the postage to the UK, so you can play with the rates as well as the markings. And then of course some of the European letters were sent via Southampton, because Southampton was a slower route to the Europe, so actually the postage would be cheaper, and then it went to the UK first, and then went across the Channel and into France, and then across the various places. So anyway, okay. So the other way, of course, there's a quicker way, of course, is via Marseille. So here's Marseille in France. Okay, so it's a bit quicker because the ship had to travel around Gibraltar to London. So actually, the ships actually going to Marseille actually saved a day or two, which nowadays in modern times is insignificant, but in the old days, every hour counts. So I mean, even you save 1 or 2 days, people, the commercial people, the businessmen would pay a little bit more, because the letters actually went through France. It had to pay a transit, which varied at different times, and it was actually gradually reduced. At first, it was like I can't remember a 5 penny, and then 5 pence, and it was actually reduced to 3 pence, etc., etc. But I'm not here to discuss about the rate changes. But if you see this letter, this is 1 shilling 4. So actually 1 shilling 4 actually is because the postage already reduced in 1854 to sixpence per half ounce. So the French transit was actually working on a quarter ounce step. So this is actually a double rate. So 6 plus 10 is 1 shilling 4. So this is as far as in those days, you could actually send letters unpaid or prepaid. So this is actually a prepaid letter, also via Marseille to London, and then this is a quarter ounce letter, so you only pay 5 pence for the French rate plus the British 6 pence, so it becomes 11. Okay, so it's a quicker route, maybe 2 days quicker than the Southampton, but the people use it a lot. Okay, so the third route during the pre-stamp period is via Trieste. Via Trieste is quite interesting because the Austrian Lloyd Company operated a shipping line between Trieste and Alexandria. In I think it's 1840, as early as 1846 or 7, something like that. And and then it actually provided I think monthly service. I'll see later. From there to Trieste, which you can actually see here, is actually here. Well, this is a modern map with this of Slovenia, but obviously in the old days it should be the Ottoman Empire. So actually Alexandria is around here. So it traveled here in the Adriatic Sea to Trieste, actually, and it's about 1 or 2 days quicker than the route here to Marseille around there. Okay, so it's a quicker route. But the problem with this route is not it's only once a month, I think, and it has to be prepaid. The British postage to Egypt has to be repaid, and the rate was 1 shilling per half ounce at that time. And then, of course, the rest of the journey, the postage had to be collected from the sender. So this is a little bit complicated, with all the different the rate marks, the calculations, usually the scribble here is the 1 shilling mark. The 6 is a 6 the silver groschen. I think it's a credit to Austria. So you get all these. In fact, it's a little bit like the autobahn. Every little section of the road you have to pay. So it's like every country that let it pass through, you have to pay something to that country, like a transit charge. So this is rather complicated. I won't analyze this here because it will take too long. But basically, that a lot of the mail actually going to the north, particularly to I won't say Germany, German states, to the German states at the time, or maybe the Scandinavia that used the Trieste route. But actually to Britain is very rare. I mean, I don't know whether it exists or not actually from Trieste to GB, because they usually, you either go by Marseille or Southampton. So this one actually to France is actually less common. This one is actually to Stockholm by Trieste. Okay. So actually this route was advertised in the Hong Kong Government Gazette in December 1848 by the William Pustar, which is the agent of Austrian Lloyd in Hong Kong, providing a monthly service. On the 10th is Trieste to Alexandria, and the return is 25th from Trieste back to yeah. So the journey was about 5 to 6 days, and there were 5 ships operating on the surface, and then you blah blah blah. Actually, you can actually read the charges they made. Actually, it advertised. Actually, you can actually send letters to Great Britain by this route. But I don't know. I actually haven't seen one actually going to the. And again, you can see all these different rates. The shilling is a British, and the 10 I'm pretty sure is a credit to France, and the 6 is usually the blue is usually to Austria. So you get a different compositions of credits on the same letter. Quite interesting to work out. So the other one is Corey. Very seldom. Dr. Corey, very seldom see him coming to the meeting. Anyway, the other way, as I said before, the routes and weights. Okay, you can also collect the routes and weights to USA. So the possible routes by Southampton, again by Marseille, and you can have private ships across the Pacific. You can have private ship across the 2 oceans, Pacific and then the Atlantic, which I'm talking about the so-called the Clipper route, and then the postage rates, of course, vary on each occasions, and then you can have a combinations of postage. the British portion, French portion, US portion, transatlantic portion. Just take a few look at the examples here. This one's actually from Canton to New York. It's not particularly rare, but the interesting thing is they actually from Canton to Hong Kong, they actually charge 8 pence here with a little red 8. This is actually a double rate letter. So the single rate, the half ounce was four pence. So it's 8, it's a double rate. So it's got a nice Canton paid strike there. And a little bit complicated, it's all jumbled up here. But actually, it worked out as it's a double rate letter between half ounce to 1 ounce. So it's 8 pence from Canton to Hong Kong, 2 shilling because of the double rate to Hong Kong to UK, and then the transatlantic portion is 8 pence, but it's double because 16, and so all added up together is 3 shilling 4. And then upon arrival, the US would charge normally 5 cents for delivery, but this is double rate, so we charge 10 cents. So that's how it worked out all these seemingly very complicated rates. So let's look at the unpaid one by Southampton. So unpaid one this is actually a single letter under half ounce from Canton to Baltimore. But this one actually did not. It was carried privately. So therefore, you didn't have the 8 pence charge on the official. There's an official steamer between Canton and Hong Kong. So that didn't have that thing on. So it was carried privately. It was actually sent from Hong Kong, and then here there is analysis that the 6 pence Hong Kong and then plus 8 pence, which is a transatlantic rate, and then the total charge was 33 cents to pay, which comprised of 5 cents US inland delivery charge plus 28 cents, which was made up by the but you see that the 12 here actually, because the ship carried this letter is a so-called American packet. So it was actually one of the ships of the ocean line, which is American packet. So actually, all the money actually got credited to USA, and the British only got the 12, got the shilling as credit to USA. So that is quite complex, but when you do a bit of studying, it just gradually you just work it out. It's not as bad as you think. Right, so here's the same, but this one's by Marseille, so you get the French portion. I won't go on with the analysis, but here it is. It all depends. The credits here, all these marks just depends on whether it's carried by British or American ships, and the money went to whichever country. Right. So the private ship is actually to USA, and then obviously it's much cheaper. So they have a port-to-port rate which is 6 cents. So this is actually Canton to San Francisco, just directly across the Pacific Ocean, probably via Hawaii. Stopped over there for water and provisions. And then and they had this little interesting ship mark here, which is a very simple 6 cents to be collected at port. So it's a port rate. But when it's not port to port, it's forwarded to elsewhere. You probably would need a forwarding agent like this one. This is Shanghai to Boston. Okay. So by San Francisco, by California, usually by San Francisco, it's got San Francisco mark here. So this had a forwarding agent mark on the handwritten forwarding agent mark on the back. It was sent actually by Panama to Boston, and it attracted 10 cents rate for 3,000 miles, so-called the two ocean route. From Canton, from Shanghai, across the Pacific to San Francisco, and then across the Panama then to the Atlantic Ocean, then to Boston. So this one actually is another different one. This is actually is a clipper male, the Hao Kwa. The Hao Kwa is actually I've written an article in the newsletter about 6 months ago about this. This is actually is a clipper, which is a specially designed ship to sail very quickly across the ocean. So this one actually from Canton, it went down to like Java and then sailed across the Pacific Ocean at Cape Horn and then went up to New York. So that the total rate actually is 7 cents, which is actually 2 cents the ship letter rate and the 5 cent inland or 300 miles. So it's actually the sailor. But it went to the ship obviously went to New York and New York to Salem is less than 300 miles. So essential reference. These books, if you want to collect this pre-stamp period, most people would have to rely on some of these books, like I mean, everybody knows the scam, postal history based on China, and then of course the Far East Mail steamship itinerary, one for the P&O, the other for the French mail boat, and of course the Kirk's books, the sales, the Ramon sales books. Of course, this one is very interesting. This is the Collins, the Admiralty Mediterranean steam packets. It's very interesting, and it's very useful to trace whether actually some of the ships actually stopped in Malta, etc. And then of course the Richard Winter's North Atlantic mail sailings. This is indispensable if you want to work out all the different transatlantic ships that carried your mail from UK to USA. So these usually are the books, and then probably some more. I mean, if you are dealing with the South American mails as well, and then you probably need a few more books, and of course to Europe, and there's another book. There's a lot of books. I mean, if you want to study this area. So other things you can actually collect. I mean, you find these roots and rays very complex. You can basically collect postal markings. Okay, the postal markings obviously during the pre-stamp period would be the same for some of the Royal Arms. I've done a study of Royal Arms. There's plenty enough for you to collect. I don't know how many, 70. I lost count. So I mean, obviously they are obviously the Royal Arms, and then you've got the Hong Kong paid cachets, and then of course you've got the Hong Kong CDS during the pre-stamp period. Different types like type 7, which is the large circle, the 9 is the medium circle, the 12 is the small broken wing, which is the most expensive one for some reason. I mean, it's not nowadays. It's not really that rare, but somehow it is very expensive. And then 13 is the common is a circular CDS. And then of course for the 3 ports you get the Shanghai paid, Amoy paid, etc. And then of course you can collect other markings like the too late or the forwarding agent cachet. And then I forgot about the bearing mark, which is only about 4 notes. So this is another example of the very nice Royal Arm from the HMS Archencourt. Okay, now here you are. So the small crown, paid circle, the medium crown, paid circle, the large crown, paid circle, and the various Hong Kong paid CDS. This one, actually, the 14B is well worth looking for because it's, I would say it's I don't know, I won't claim credit to myself, but it is different. It's a new, I would say, it's a newish discovery, which is actually not recorded in the GPO Booth book. The GPO Booth book only records these 2, which Webb quoted, everybody quoted it, and you can actually see the C is very distinctive. The height of the C, one is it's got high C, one is got a so-called low C. But this one, it actually is quite rare. Usually found in 1860. It could have been a spare chop reserved for some purpose, but you can see the C is slightly lower than this one, and the G is actually quite different from these two. So it's more elongated and narrow than the other two, and the G is much lower than the other two. So this is a definite entity, and I think at the moment it's less than about a dozen known. So it's well worth looking for. So, and then of course this is the Shanghai paid, and the Shanghai actually anything that is not paid in Hong Kong, they paid in other treaty ports. They would have the rectangular paid mark on it, and then this one has got a very faint Shanghai paid underneath the U.S. mark. Okay, so now the Hong Kong CDS. Okay, this is really for the amateur. I know that you know it all, but this is quite interesting. The Type 7 is actually quite interesting. The large Hong Kong broken ring CDS. And there are actually two of these in the GPO pool book, and they're slightly, very slightly different. You need a very clear strikes like these two to distinguish them. And I think the salient feature actually is the G. It's one has got a kind of longer, like a flatter G, and the other is actually they're like a shorter, more oval G, and then the bar as well. This one has got the bar is in a different place, but it's very similar. Unless you have well, luckily, in the pre-adhesive mail, they usually are very cleanly struck, and then you can actually see it very clearly. But if you for example, when one of the type, I can't remember which type, it could be 7B, that was used in a later period for parcel or whatever purpose. They resurrected this this CDS for that for cancellation of parcels or high value postage stamps. If you go only part of it, I mean, it's very difficult. But I think it is this one. This is 7B. Then of course the Web Type 9, which is medium CDS. You've got variations of the dates with serif letters, with unserif letters, with the two nines and the month in the middle, where basically you've got 1, 2, 3, 4. There are 4 slots in there. So the reason why they put the 2 nines there is to stop the letters moving around. Okay, so for example here, there's empty slot here. Now this could have been, they could have inserted a spacer in between, so they just stop the letters moving around. Otherwise, after a few, maybe 10, 50, 20 hits, the letters will start moving around. So I got a feeling that they put a spacer in between. So this is the so-called the infamous or famous Type 12, which is almost impossible unless you stumble upon one at a stamp dealer without knowing what it is. Otherwise, if you try to buy an auction, you will be certainly paying an arm and leg for it. Where there are 2 types, where there's actually the same CDS, the earlier ones without the index, the later with the index C. And then the Type 13, this is actually very similar to the later Hong Kong CDS, but it hasn't got the dash between the G and K. So this is the pre-adhesive. Actually, it's surprisingly, it's only short use for a very short period, because soon after 59, 61, 62, used about 3 years, and then was replaced with one with a dash between the G and K. So this is not surprisingly much slightly less common than the one with the one issued during the stamp period. Of course, the foreign agents you all know, with the complicated postage systems, and companies actually relied on these forwarders. So even nowadays, they have forwarding agents, to forward their mail and pay the postage for them, to put them on the right ships, etc. So there are different forwarding marks, which I won't go. If you're interested, I mean, if you have Ossetti and etc. They have a very good study of these marks. Okay, so what to collect? I mean, you can do it by theme as well. Because some people collect open walls. It could be the first wall, could be the second wall, and then of course you collect. Some people collect correspondence, like the Culbertson correspondence, the Augustine Herd, the Gombert, and the religious archive. Okay, and some people collect wreck mails. See, there's some wrecks, shipwrecks during the pre-adhesive period. Like, for example, the Douro, Ava, Elma, Columbus, all falls between the pre-adhesive period. And then, of course, disinfection mail. And then, of course, we call it Uraria Humanum, which is the errors of the marking. Some people is a little bit odd, they want to find something, a little bit eccentric to collect, like the sent, wrong cancel, wrong dates, etc. You can do that. Okay, this is some examples of the campaign mail. Okay, this is from Tinghai. Okay, you can see the raging battle over here, and it's written during the campaign. And this is actually one of the Eastern Expedition letters sent from Hong Kong Harbor. It's one of the Edwards correspondence. Okay, so it actually sent to the Western Supermare, and it attracted an 8-pence ship letter rate. Okay, so right, so the shipwreck. Well, I won't go into too much about that, but that you can see that this is the Colombo, one of the Colombo covers. Actually, I thought Colombo there are lots of them. Yes, there are many, because there were many mailbags. You can see the Colombo there wrecked and the Minicoy Island off Ceylon, but there were many bags saved, but I think only I did an unpublished survey of the Colombo covers from Hong Kong, and there are only about 13 to 14 actually from Hong Kong, which is clearly distinguishable with the Hong Kong Pay, CDS, etc. And then, of course, Richard was very kindly pointed out in the Hong Kong Gazette of 1864. 1864. The UK actually returned something like 40 letters back to Hong Kong undeliverable. Presumably those were just letters and no covers. They cannot be delivered. So that was, I think, it was May 1864. They published it in the Hong Kong Gazette. So this is I think it may be the only known to Stockholm from the wreck of Alma, which I think I wrote in the study circle newsletter. Okay, disinfected mail, as everybody knows, got some slits and very dirty, and some of the this is Macau to Lisboa quarantine vellum. This is the very common Malta lazaret mark. Got some slits and fumigated, usually fumigated sulfur. And in those days, I mean, about 1840s, and usually it's cholera rather than yellow fever or smallpox or things like that. So they at that time they already abandoned using vinaigrette, things like that. Right. So errors. What kind of errors? You can get interesting errors like Hong Kong paid in blue, Hong Kong paid in black, and this is also an error. Actually, it's called the Indian letter. so somebody actually stamped the Indian letter to a letter actually from China, and then of course without actually being corrected. So actually, Fred Ruth actually got it cheap, and but this is kind of what I mean by errors, some interesting errors. It's like a fringe collection. Okay, so personal study. Upon acquisition of material, this is the next step. Usually extremely time consuming because you have to check the race, the roots, and how it got there. And okay, you can do it by using published literature. But unfortunately, some can, even Kirk or maybe eminent people like Kirk or Proud made some mistakes, or maybe due to just as a copying error or something like that, or maybe Kirk is sometimes incomplete, some of the information incomplete. So it's actually best to use a primary source, which is even more time consuming because you have to go to archives, you go to logbooks, you look up newspapers, and but fortunately, a lot of these are now online, so you can actually spend at your own leisure to look up the newspapers or archives, etc. And then, of course, you consult reliable experts like Neil, who could probably tell you a lot more than you know. Okay. I always consult Neil because no, he's got a lot of resources. Anyway, okay. So primary source actually this is from Hong Kong. Okay. You can go to this website and you can get all these newsletters and sort of newspapers. That usually for this period you will look up China Mail and then the Hong Kong Daily Press. And the rest, of course, you can look up, but they won't be that early. Okay. And then this is all online, but unfortunately it's not incomplete. Unfortunately, there are some years which are missing in Hong Kong. I mean, but obviously, if you go to the maybe the Smithsonian or elsewhere in other maybe college library, they could be there. But this is the beauty of this is all online, and you just click it and you find the newspaper. So the other sources like the Canton Register, Straits Times, and the North China Herald, you can actually find it all online, which is very, very useful to check ships. Okay, the other one, the other very interesting thing, source of information, of course, is the Hong Kong government reports online, which there is unfortunately there's a gap again here between 45 and 53. Which are not in the Sunzi Library, the Hong Kong U. But obviously, in other libraries you probably could find it. But it's very quite interesting. In 42 to 43 is called a Friend of China and Hong Kong Gazette. And they changed the design of the header. Right, primary source. Just to quote an example. So this is, I can't remember, this is actually from the China Mail or from the Hong Kong Daily Press. But you can actually see this is August 16, 1845. This is actually the first ship, the Lady Mary Wood, is actually the first ship coming into Hong Kong. It actually says arrival. So it arrived on 13th of August. Okay, you can see all the different ships, some of the private ships, some of the quite famous ones. Some of the Cybers, for example, the Cyber and the Anna. These some of the ships that you probably find it in the Eagle, for example, and from Kam Sing Mun. You can find these ships annotation on the pre-stamp mail, and then of course it's got the sailing dates of all the ships as well. And then it says here, steam. This is the advertisement for the Lady Mary Wood, and in fact there were a pair of steamships. The first one is the Lady Mary Wood, the other is the Braganza. Okay, these were the first two P&O packets coming into Hong Kong in 1845. So these actually advertising for the ships, etc. And then the interesting P&O actually use a relay You know, the ships actually don't travel all the way like the French ships to Europe. They actually use a relay of ships from Hong Kong to Ceylon, and then the second leg is Ceylon to Egypt, and the third leg is from across the Mediterranean to UK. So you can see there's an interesting stamp from Gibraltar in 2020 with the Lady Mary Wood. Didn't actually say where, but you can see the Lady Mary Wood is actually a steamer. They call it steamer with an external was it the wheel, and then you can also use sail. So it's when the wind is in the correct direction, and they use the sail to save the coal. So this is actually a quite interesting stamp. So this is actually I found it. This is actually a first voyage of the Lady Mary Wood from Singapore to Hong Kong, coming to Hong Kong with the arrival date of 13th of August. You can actually see from the previous slide. Oops, you can see, so actually it arrived on the 13th of August. So this proves that this is actually the letter actually sent on the first voyage of Lady Mary. It says Lady Mary Wood here anyway, to Singapore to Canton. So there are other ships on this route before the 1850, which is the Braganza, Peking, Pottinger, Malta, and Archimedes. Which is all this is all you can only find this in Kirk. In Kirk. So, and this is again some interesting snippets from the newspaper, the Hong Kong Gazette actually. So you can see how expensive it was to travel by ship for it says for berth in the general cabin. A gentleman costs £150 to Penang. There's only going to Penang. Wow, Singapore is £160. And just imagine, this is 1845, £150. It's a hell of a lot of money. So, even kids, they have to charge something like £12. So it's quite interesting that, you read about this. They not only carry the letters, they only carry passengers and goods, cargo as well. Right? So this one is another snippet from the China Mail or something, which is the first letter out of Hong Kong. So first westward letter sent on the 28th of August, and the Lady Mary Wood actually sailed on the 1st of December. So this is actually is like a primary source of information that you can find. So personal study, what the next step would be: check the rarity. Use the published literature such as auction catalogs and compiled lists. That's where sometimes Neil comes into hand, and you can ask him, how many too late marks are there that he has come across, and then he's a consult reliable expert. You see that? So, and then of course you sometimes you may want to check the valuation for insurance purpose, for example, or for investment purpose. How much did you buy? And then when next time when you sell, will you lose or make money? This is entirely up to you whether you want to do it. Some people do it, some people don't. I remember the late Richard Chan actually wrote the price that he paid on the back of every cover that he bought. So actually you can actually see how much he paid for it. And when he's trying to sell it to you, that he will want he will want a markup of that price that he paid. Preservation. Well, obviously this applies to everything, but for this is actually for stamplers or stamp covers, whatever. You need a good low humidity environment, but not so low, maybe 55 to 60% humidity, with little temperature fluctuation. Under 18%, I think that probably in Europe, I think in Hong Kong, it was well nigh impossible to be 18 degrees. It's almost, you put it in a wine cellar or something to be 18 degrees. but I think that this refers to Europe, the RPSL guideline. So to prevent deterioration, use mylar, which is a special material for your covers, instead of never use PVC, because that has toxic chemicals that will destroy your paper and ink. So usually mylar is the most expensive, but I assure you, it's well worth it. The light control, don't leave it under the sun or even UV light. Keep it in the dark. Of course, keep it in a safe place. Bank vault. If the asset value is very high, and then of course, avoid smoking, your cigar or cigarettes or whatnot, or pollution. It's very important. If you live next to a building site, don't open the window. Insects is particularly harmful, particularly in subtropics and tropics, and fungus as well. And obviously, I would not put it there, but children, those are very great hazard. So this is actually, you can read about this paper. It is all about David Beach actually wrote a wonderful paper on how to preserve the collection. So a little bit about exhibiting. I mean, this is when you collected a large amount of material, you may or may not like to show people, or to exhibiting doesn't mean that you have to enter into a competition. So it could be non-competitive, maybe at a club level, you want to show your friends, or competitively at a national, international exhibition. So there are at different levels, like a local county level, state level, national level, regional level, world stamp exhibition. Nowadays, you can have a virtual online stamp exhibition too. And then also it's very fashionable nowadays to have one frame or multi-frame exhibit. For example, I mean, you're just showing the first too late mark. I mean, I doubt you can actually show more than one frame. But before you exhibit, you need to read and understand the rules of exhibiting. And there's something called the IREX, which is the individual regulation of exhibition for each exhibition that states what you could show and what you can't show and what class, etc. But you can actually see all these rules in the FIP website. Okay, of course, you need to put in a form. This is an application form. It's happened to be from Cape Town, but they're all very similar. So you have to state your previous. This is actually a World Stamp exhibition. So you have to have some qualification before you enter, and you need some kind of usually at least a large mermaid award and national stamp exhibition, and then you just basically quote your exhibits achievements, see, in various levels. Main thing is fill in the entry form correctly. Note the class number, enter the correct title, note the closing date. A lot of people actually send the form after the exhibit is closed. Note the frame fee, because the frame fees now, these are quite expensive. So if you think that, oh, yeah, it's too expensive, don't exhibit. And some of them, of course, may be free. So it's a personal choice. And then signed and dated. And then importantly, before you actually send there usually is a commissioner for each country to take the exhibit to the exhibition. And of course, you need to trust the guy to take it. And then you have to send in addition to your application form, also a title page, which is an introduction of your exhibit. Usually it's 1 page, or some people write the synopsis, which can be 2 or 3 pages about more details about your exhibit, and send it together with your application form to the commission. Right. So application form, for what I've been talking about, which is really stamp the pre-adhesive mail, which really falls under, it can be fall under these classes, like traditional philately, which is a study of stamps. But obviously, you can use the pre-adhesive mail as a forerunner of traditional of your traditional philately, explaining what happened before the stamps were issued. Only maybe you only use one typical frame consists of 16 sheets. Maybe you only use eight sheets, or maybe the whole frame. But if you have too much of it, of course, the judges will think that this is a postal history exhibit. So at discretion, you can use some of your stampless mail as introduction. And then, of course, the class most people would have put it is the postal history class, which is divided into subclass, three subclasses. One is 2A, which is the traditional, what we know the roots and rates study, or B, which is Markovely, which is the cancellation, or C, which is a social and historical study. So I talked about earlier on about some people collecting the theme, say, for example, the Opium War, that you can actually use the Opium War as a social historical study. You just using more the Opium War covers with maybe with some maps or medals or letters or something. I mean, that could actually create quite an interesting social history exhibit. And of course, you can use some of the stampless, the pre-stamp covers in the thematic. Quite often, they in the thematic class, or even open class nowadays, they have a lot of these adhesive covers. So acknowledgement, okay, got some sources. That's all. I mean, thank you very much for listening. I know it's for some of you, this is you already know this already, but you're welcome to ask some questions regarding to collecting pre-adhesive mail. So I'll stop sharing. Okay. Right.
Well, thank you very much, Andrew.
Yeah.
One thing is worth looking out for, because all the old businesses often sent 2 letters by different routes. Because it was important to get the first one gets there as quickly as possible. And if you can get both covers together, they make a really attractive page.
Indeed, indeed. You're talking about I see what you mean. So one sent by Southampton and one sent by Marseille. Just as make it doubly sure that the person would receive it. And it's a bit like the ship letter. They have double and triplicate letters. Yeah, that's very interesting. Very interesting. Yeah, that is another way to collect. Yeah. Right. Okay. So any comments? And are you interested? Have I convinced you to start collecting this pre-adhesive mail? Cheap and cheerful. Some of them.
You opened the door, which is very good.
Yes. Yeah, I think so, because there's some of the I think especially in recent years I've actually seen a lot of a lot of them coming out, and they are very good things. They're very nice things, but they're not really attracting that kind of attention to collectors. And some of them really very interesting letters, and not very low estimate and remain unsolved, which is just very disappointing. I mean, but if you have known something about that letter, for example, I mean, you would probably die for it, right? And of course, I'll be very happy to pick it up for very cheap. But I think the purpose again, for this little webinar actually is to just make people aware of this field, of this area of collecting, and yeah, because there's just so much material around, and it's such a you can actually do a good study on a particular area, you know. And it really doesn't, unless you're really collecting the top-notch items. I mean, and well-known items, maybe, you know, forwarding agent, you don't want to collect all the waghorns. I mean, it probably cost you an arm and a leg. But maybe some of the forwarding agents are really, you know, fairly reasonable price. You know, and some of them are even, you know, compared to stamp covers. I mean, they are quite affordable. But some of the stamp covers are very expensive nowadays because some are associated with treaty port marks and things like that. And with a rare stamp, you know, you have an 18-cent CC watermark on the cover, you know, or maybe a 4-cent 12.5 on cover, you know, that I could guarantee you that would go through the roof. So yeah, and survival rate, not too sure. I think I don't know. If you ask me how many stampless covers there are, I would say few hundred to 1,000. I don't know. It's quite a lot. You know,
there are quite a lot. Yes.
Yeah, they're quite a lot, and then even excluding all the ones without postal markings. Yeah, even the postal markings. Someone actually told me that even the 17th century, well, no, 18th century, say 17 something, but there are over hundreds of the 17 something letters, you know, without postal markings. So they're not really. Some people have, I've got 1732. It's really rare, but no, I think there are lots. There are quite a lot. It's just that a lot of these are preserved in, for example, family correspondence, and nobody wants to sell them because they've got a letter inside, and they say, "Oh, great granny wrote to me about this interesting place called China or something." So they want to keep a lot of families want to keep the correspondence amongst themselves. Right. So any other comments? All right. Okay. So in that case, I think next month we'll go back to the usual show and tell, unless somebody wants to talk about a particular subject in a kind of fashion that I talked about. So let's see what happens. I think it should have been in the middle of the month. Well, we don't have a summer vacation with Philatelic. Always something going on. So, anyway, well, good to see you all, and well, have a nice morning, afternoon, and evening, and yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you, Andrew.
Bye. Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.